Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 show to bring you all things Club America in English. Your hosts for today, Ivan Pineda, Christian Rosendo, and everyone's favorite cowboy, Dylan Jimenez. Let's start the show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Eagle Eye Podcast. Today we have quite the packed episode. We're going to be recapping everything that happened with Las Águilas del América in regards to that game against Santos Laguna, and then, of course, the terrible match that was Querétaro as well. And then we're going to get a little bit further on into the episode, a preview with some people from the Rayados podcast to help us preview the Monterrey game. So plenty to talk about in this episode. But before I get ahead of myself any further, let me introduce, as always, my co-host, New York's favorite resident, Christian Rosendo, and everyone's favorite cowboy, Dylan Jimenez. Gentlemen, how are we?
I have to burp. Hold up.
It's not how I was expecting.
Not the professional entrance I was expecting either.
Yeah, well, you're not going to get professional every single time, but I'm doing good. Thank you for asking, Ivan. I hope everything's well with you and your family. I hope everyone that's listening is staying safe, wearing a mask, and just ready to talk about America. Unfortunately, we had a pretty bad defeat the other day, but I guess not all was bad when in the game during Santos, and I'm very excited to have the guys from Rayados 90 over to preview everything Monterrey. So it should be a good episode.
Yeah, definitely. They'll be hopping on in just a little bit later on in the episode, giving us a little bit of time to talk about those two games that we were just previously mentioning. Now, Dylan, how is life over there in Texas?
Oh, it's a little, not necessarily, I wouldn't say cool, but, it's not necessarily triple digits right now, but we're going to look to be hitting those triple digits pretty soon. But, hot, warm, a little bit humid. We got some rain, but, everything's good down here in the Permian Basin.
All right. Nice to hear that. Stay hydrated, people. Remember, stay hydrated. Really hot times right now we're experiencing. And talking about hot times, let's talk about the hot time America had at home. Well, not really at home because we were playing in Seoul against Santos. Let's talk about that game first, and then we'll talk about the terrible game that was the Querétaro matchup. Gentlemen, we came into this game a little bit skeptical, of course, with everything going on with America's matchup against Necaxa. We didn't know what America to expect, but right from the beginning, it seemed that Piojo's message was very clear, and it was, like we mentioned time and time again, go at the rival, take the game to them, and it paid dividends to them. How did you guys see this game? Or Christian, at least, how did you feel about America's start to this game? And then we'll talk a little bit about the second half, because I think America kind of, takes the foot off the gas pedal.
This reminds me a lot of how we started the season in our first two games, where in the four halves, we played one good half, and that's pretty much how this game kind of went. These two games, I think we had a very excellent, almost near perfect first half against Santos, netting 3 goals. It was something just amazing to watch. I think the chemistry was there. Everything was going right for Roger Martinez. Sebastian Cordova was creating. I even saw Leo Suarez be a little bit more comfortable in his position and actually participating more, getting into the action more, and he even had a goal. So it was definitely an all-around, well-rounded effort from the team, from goalkeeper to offense, and like I said, almost near perfect.
Yeah, literally almost near perfect. And then, of course, the second half happens, which we'll get to in just a little bit. But like you mentioned, Christian, it was nice to see that America started off the first half in such good fashion. Dylan, it's something that we talked about, is America starting the game. Sometimes we don't know whether we're going to get a team that's going to go right from the get-go, or we're going to get a team that's kind of building along the way. How did you feel about America's start to the first half, at least in regards to the game against Santos?
No, like you said, and Christian said too, I thought it was a great start. You saw a lot of great things that you wanted to do, and kind of backtracking a little bit, Ivan, what you said about, not knowing what kind of America team we're going to get. I know we talked about consistency, but I feel like this is the one thing America is actually consistent at, keeping us guessing and wondering what team we're going to get, whether we're going to get a team that's going to be coming out and playing the full 90 to the game we know they can play, or, if they're going to be slacking off, not knowing what they're doing, just playing with no identity. And, we got the former, actually. So a lot of great things you saw, like Christian was saying, Leo Suarez was doing great things, looking really comfortable in his position too. Roger too, stepping up the way we wanted him to. Overall, it was a good game. It's what you wanted to see from the team.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I'm looking over at the SofaScore stats, and I'm looking over at the momentum bar, and it's 100% mostly all America. There's some chances here and there for Santos, but you don't really see America kind of lose the ball at all until that second half, where I think Santos is just a much better team than America in those last 45 minutes. But like we mentioned previously, it was a good way to kick things off for America. Of course, like you mentioned, Christian, Leo Suarez looked like he was enjoying his time. He looked a little bit more comfortable. He got himself into dangerous positions, which led to him scoring that obviously historic goal for America, right? The 5,000 goal for America in history. And I mean, it was showing good stuff. And I think the one thing that let us down was the fact that the second half comes around and you just don't see the same America. I think they got complacent. I think they came out in the second 45 saying we won this game. There's no reason for us to excel or to even push even further. But I do think that was the wrong mindset that America should have not came out with that, because it led to Santos having way more of the ball. It led to Santos having much more dangerous opportunities in our halves. And I mean, I don't know. What more could you tell me about the second half?
Sure. So, like you said, I think America was just way too complacent. And also, once again, and this is a kind of a story in both games, in the Santos and Querétaro game, Piojo Herrera in the substitutes, he got it wrong again. When he saw his team not really generating any chances, he takes out Leo Suarez, which arguably I think he was having a really good game. Finally, trying him out on the left hand position, like I've always kind of praised throughout this whole season, right? And he was actually doing things good. He was making plays. He was finally being very into the game, and actually making the difference. And then you take him out for Henry Martin. Now the reason why you do that is because you want him to play up top with Venus, but now you don't have anyone on the left side, so you slide in Cordova, and then that's basically all from Cordova you saw for the rest of the match. He was completely shut out. He really didn't do much right afterwards, and it was just pure mess for Herrera from there on forward. And this is something I think we've criticized Piojo before in the past. His substitutes, sometimes he just doesn't get it right, and I think in this one he kind of messed up on that one, because you just limit our wingers even more. You kind of run through your plays through everything through Roger Martinez, and that second half he kind of got shut out too, because it was just kind of easy to counteract whatever we were doing. But credit to Santos, that I think they came out with the determination that they could have maybe make this game a little bit more interesting, and to some extent they kind of did when they scored in the 67th. Whether it was a PK or not, we'll leave that aside. But nonetheless, though, it was a goal, and America just didn't find an answer after that, and I guess we kind of say that we got a little bit lucky that we didn't concede another one.
No, yeah, I think you're right. We definitely did get lucky. And sometimes luck has to play a little bit of part throughout the season, but you can't rely on it 100% every single part of the game. And I think a perfect example is the Querétaro game, which we'll get to in just a moment. But you're right. The defense kind of looked in shambles after that goal, even before that goal as well. I think they felt a lot more of the pressure. Obviously, the midfield wasn't helping as much as we would have wanted them to. Like again, it just looked like everyone was nonchalant on the pitch, right, Dylan? I mean, do you think that there was a different mindset, attitude that this America team showed in the second half?
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, you compare some of the first half stats to the second half stats. We outshoot Santos in the first half, and then you go to the second half, and we're getting outshot. There was just no determination. I feel like no determination in this to an extent for this team, and to go now maybe go get in a fourth goal, maybe potentially a fifth goal too. Which obviously we had some shots on target in that second half, but obviously we didn't just put those away. But like Christian kind of said too, you look at some of the subs that were made. They weren't smart subs. I feel like, especially the Leo Suarez sub, I was like, why is he taking him out? Why is Piojo taking this guy out? And so it's just some things, tactically, I feel like Piojo is kind of always fallen into. Like we've always talked about Piojo not getting the subs right. Sometimes he doesn't make a sub to like the 80th minute. And sometimes, he makes one sooner, but it's just not the right sub. And so, again, Piojo is kind of being his own Achilles heel in extent to this second half against Santos. And like Christian said, we just got a little bit lucky to walk away even with after that goal. Because after that goal in that 67th minute, I'm not going to lie, I got kind of a little worried. Santos was obviously attacking more. They had more of the ball. And so I kind of figured, what's going to go wrong now.
Yeah, no, it felt like any moment now, if Santos was to score another one, America was going to just crumble and crash, and then obviously, and probably not even walk away with all 3 points. Now, I do want to talk about just a little bit of what we were discussing, in the fact that you had players like Leo Suarez, having a good game. You had Cordoba, being detrimental and impactful. And then these substitutions that Piojo make obviously just kind of tear things apart. Is this something that the players need to kind of react to better, or is this 100% just on Piojo and saying, look, you got to get your substitutions better because you can't put all the pressure on these players out on the pitch to just kind of make things happen and work in situations?
I think in a sense that you fall on both. I mean, you look at the first half, everybody's gelling together. Everybody's doing great. Correct me, somebody, if I'm wrong, but didn't Leo Suarez get like 60 minutes that Santos game? About so? A little
Yeah.
longer, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like Christian said, too, I mean, the guy's balling out. I mean, and then Piojo just gets it wrong. I mean, Piojo's got to realize, too, at halftime, he's got to tell these guys, to keep the pressure going. Think of it like it's 0-0 walking in the second half, and let's go grab another goal or two. And then it's got to fall on Piojo to make smart decisions whenever it's coming to making some of these substitutions.
No, yeah, I completely agree. And we'll talk a little bit more about Piojo because he's been definitely trending on Twitter these past couple of days because of the result against Querétaro. But I do want to mention the fact that America had such a great opportunity coming into the second half if they would have kept the same rhythm and the same mindset to go out there and completely just dismantle the Santos side and walk away with such a huge margin of a win. Right at the end of the day, you only end up winning by 2 goals, but this is a game that we mentioned like previously. It's a game where you're able to get goals and goals are detrimental to your season, not just in that game itself, but along the way, because we know how important tiebreakers are. And usually it falls down to that goal differential, right? And so right now, fortunately, that's why America is in the position that they're in, still in first place ahead of Cruz Azul, because of, we have one more goal scored than them in this season. But it was such perfect opportunity for America to go out there and score all these goals. Christian, we've mentioned it time and time again. It doesn't matter about having that kind of respect for the opponent. If you have the opportunity to go out there and win by 4, 5, 7, 8, no matter how big the scoreline is, you have to take advantage of it, especially so early in the season.
No, of course, and like we always keep reiterating every single podcast. We need to kind of amplify the scoreline whenever we can at the start of the season when it's a little bit easier in terms of scheduling. Now, I know Santos isn't really the easiest team, but they were very vulnerable at this moment, and in this moment, that's where we had to capitalize and take their chances. It's just just things I question about this team, just not being in the right mentality just yet, I guess. And I know it's still kind of technically so early in the season, there's time to improve, but moments like this, though, where you kind of question, like, where's the leadership in this? Where's the coach when we need him? I understand the frustration of the fans, but at the same time, though, I think we have to kind of just take it step by step. But obviously, the next game after this one didn't really help with anything I'm saying right now. But it's definitely a little bit worrisome that I guess America doesn't have that mentality to kind of just go out there and just dominate the opponent, and the fact that they were so complacent and nonchalant in the second half just kind of raises questions.
No, yeah, completely. A lot of questions were raised, and now it is the biggest question, of course, was what happened against Querétaro, and we'll try to figure that out. But I mean, it's a bit worrisome, very very worrisome that you couldn't go out there and take advantage of something so great, really. But fortunately, yeah, it is what it is at this point. But good win at the end of the day. I think we all walk away with that and saying, okay, a good 45 minutes ends up giving us all 3 points. We, whilst we were shaky, we did have some solid moments in the back. So, we chucked it up to a good result at the end of the day, right? The game against Santos, good result, good 3 points.
Yes, of course.
Let's move on into the next game, right? Anything else you guys want to talk about in regards to the Santos matchup, player, stat, anything before we move on to the Querétaro game?
I just want to reiterate that I think Piojo listened to the podcast, and I kept saying it for however long that Leo Suarez should be tried on the left. And in this game, I think he did an amazing job. Unfortunately, the same performance wasn't shown again in the Querétaro game, but I think that was just due to, I guess, the whole team just not playing well. And it's a little bit worrisome to me because I guess after a defeat like this, Piojo's kind of try to change something up, and I hope that's not one of the things that gets tweaked, because I really do feel like Leo Suarez is more impactful on that side. I think he just needs a little bit more time. But yeah, definitely excited to see the progression of this player. Back the goal and the assist in the Santos game, playing on the left hand side, he was definitely much more impactful than he's ever been for America in that game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And finally, right, showcasing. I think he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder as well, knowing that he has competition for that starting role with Sergio Diaz coming in, right? So it's gonna be good to see the best out of Leo Suarez because we need him to be that detrimental player out on the wing. And if he's able to do so, in these upcoming games, then he merits that chance to be that starting spot, whether it's on the right or the left, or hopefully, fingers crossed, it is on the left hand side because I agree with you, Christian. Completely a different player when he's on that left hand side.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Alrighty then. All right, gentlemen, let's walk away from the Santos game and let's fast forward and go and talk about this terrible matchup, this Querétaro game. Dylan, you and I were talking off camera. We were talking earlier in the day, and we just said something doesn't feel right coming into this one. We didn't come in. At least I know that I didn't come into this game confident. I felt that something was gonna be off, and surely enough, a lot of things were off. How did you describe yourself, or can you describe this America side going into this Querétaro game?
I don't even know where to begin. Again, are we allowed to cuss on this podcast?
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
I mean,
Just do it, please.
I just tell you, I just saw a Medica side that was dragging ass. I mean, anybody who's watching on the damn screen right now, and if for those listening, like from Spotify, SoundCloud, or iTunes, it just if you haven't watched the video or seen my face yet, go ahead and watch it. I'm not gonna sit here and lie that I have this double chin right here, people can see, but damn it, I can be wearing some damn boots, some chaps, my cowboy hat, and I run faster than all those guys that were on the damn pitch. I mean, like, it was just dragging ass the whole time. Like, that's all I gotta say. I got nothing else to say. Like, I obviously, after the Santos game, you had some confidence, but obviously, coming into Querétaro too, as the away team, America struggles in that area, and so like, I don't know. That's just how I feel. I just saw people just dragging ass the whole time. That's me.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of people share that same kind of criticism towards the team.
And I apologize those are listening that I cussed.
I'm pretty sure they'll forgive you because it is one of those situations where you're just frustrated at the team because you had such a great game on Thursday and then you're following it up on Sunday with such a poor and lackluster performance that you can't really put an explanation to it. I mean, like you mentioned, Dylan, the players look slow. The players just looked out of it. I don't even know if it was fatigue, but if it is, you can't have fatigue 30 minutes into the game. Like 30 minutes into the game, I saw an America side that just did not want to run. Yes, they had the ball more, but they were just like, we got this. Somehow, some way, we're gonna score a goal. The Tulane people put it perfectly. America came into this game thinking that they were gonna win this game with just their jerseys, and that was it. That was gonna be sufficient enough to get all 3 points in Querétaro. But truth of the matter is, you have to go out there and you have to play your game. Christian, what went wrong for this America side right from the get-go? You just looked at this team and nothing seemed to be connecting. Everything just kind of seemed like lustrous. The first 5 minutes, America seemed like they had something going, but after that, they just kind of switched it off exactly the same way that they did against Necaxa.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I don't know, man. There's a lot of things that went wrong, obviously, but I think just the true thing is just they're just too confident. I think everyone just put it perfectly. America went in there, and because they thought they were America, and they thought because they had that badge right here on their left hand side, they thought they were going to go out there and win this game. They knew their opponent in front of them was kind of a newer side that didn't really have a lot of chemistry, so they thought that they had it in the bag, and unfortunately they didn't. They got very, very, very confident against a very well organized team. I'm gonna be honest, I really haven't seen much of Querétaro this season, but after watching this game, it might be a team I might have to follow because this is a team that gave a lot of problems to Cruz Azul, and I guess from there I should have probably realized that this team is a real deal in terms of, I guess, putting up a big fight against the bigger teams. They did it once against Cruz Azul, and they were for sure going to do it here again against America. I guess we all should have realized that. But I don't know, man. There was a lot of things that went wrong. Starting with the defense, I guess we were very exposed on that right-hand side, and they were just having a field day with us over there. Roger Martinez wasn't the same. He was very double teamed most of the time, and he gets very frustrated when things don't go his way. So he was very limited there. Leo Suarez didn't really get much of the ball because I think we were just trying to play through Roger Martinez because we were a little bit desperate. Cordova, I guess, even though he bagged the goal, he really didn't do much for me. Didn't really receive the ball. An opportunity to create plays wasn't presented to him. Viñas was, I think, maybe the only player that I think was rescued from this match. But even then, though, not really, in action the way I wanted him to be. Of course, Richard Sanchez gets the red card, and I think from there you really saw America just deflate and go into a world that we never see him rise again, and that's scary because in former years, in former seasons, America, when they get a red card, they're not really flustered by it. They kind of have an idea of how to bounce back and how to keep the game balanced and keep the game interesting and, try to find a way to fight back. We've seen comebacks. We've seen, the team rescue draws from matches. And then just this game, it was the complete opposite. It looked like, we didn't have the passion to be there. We just didn't want to be there. We wanted the match to be over. And it showed. And we ate 4 goals. And, let us be the laughingstock for a week because we deserve to be.
And I want to address this comment. Rabi Reyes 2091. I understand where you're coming from. It's just a viewer that's watching us on Periscope. For those who aren't here on the live chat right now, I understand where you're coming from. You haven't played for 4 months, but this is the way this team's been playing. I understand the Pachuca game. Obviously you kind of you're going to see some rust first game back. Even after that preseason tournament, but then you go out and get a 4-0 win against Tijuana, and then you go out and draw, and you come out and get another win against Santos. I mean, you're going to want to see this team play at that level that they played against Tijuana and Santos. I mean, 4 months is kind of, I think, an excuse now at this point if you're seeing the team play at the level that they played from those 2 games. And why can't they do it against Querétaro? That's my point. But I understand where you're coming from. There's no 4 months without play due to the coronavirus pandemic. But if you're seeing the team play at the level that they can, then there's no excuse to bring that up anymore.
No, I completely agree. And look, we're all over the place right now. We definitely are. We're all over the place. So let's kind of structure this and kind of go forward from it. First off, I want to start off with Dylan's comment because I think it's important to kind of address the fact that at this point, yes, Dylan, you're right. Mentioning this is an excuse that America has that doesn't have the luxury to use, right? Even in the mix of a pandemic, America's standards are still, as always, set high, ridiculously high sometimes, that no club in this league has either. So now it's you're coming into this game and that okay, America went one good, one bad, one good, and now you're thinking, okay, are they going to repeat that cycle or are they going to finally find consistency? Like mentioned again, the word that's all we should brand that word into this podcast because I think we used it the most out of the 2 years that we've been doing this.
Let's just have it in our logo, honestly.
Yeah, consistency. Will we ever get it? But shifting back to this Querétaro game, let's kind of start off at the beginning. America had a good 5 minutes, right? Good 5 minutes. Viñas had an opportunity, and then just it seemed that the whole team just kind of shut down afterwards. Got complacent. Thought, you know what? We already made one chance. We already made one chance happen. We're bound to make 3, 4, 5, just like that. And then, they're just moving the ball around. But Querétaro were smart. Querétaro were waiting. We're ready to pounce on us. And I know that a lot of people are criticizing Paul Aguilar because he did have a terrible game. He was just out there. It looked like he was just getting beat in every run. But my question has to be asked towards El Hueso Reyes as well, because I think he just did not show up for this game. Consistently was getting beat on those runs. The Querétaro players just looked way faster than all the America players. And, the defense was just in shambles. Bruno Valdez had just a terrible game in my eyes. Cáceres as well, someone that we've been praising, Christian, just did not look like himself at all. Mm-hmm. And these are just luxuries you cannot give yourself, especially like we mentioned so early in the season when you have such an easier, lighter schedule than you do at the end, where things are just a lot more hectic for you. So this is a game in where you thought America needs to get all 3 points. You don't have the luxury to say, okay, you're just going to be able to walk away with 1 point and say, okay, that's fine, because you did that against Necaxa and you kind of used that card up. Now at this point, you have to go out there against what, 12th or 15th side Querétaro? I don't even know what place they were at before we even played them, but you can't. You have to go out there and you have to win. And then, of course, the big thing that changes everything is, of course, the red card to Richard Sanchez. I'm not going to sit here and debate whether or not it was a red card, if he deserved it, but I will say this much. For stating the facts is that he gets the red card, and just the team doesn't know how to adapt in that situation. Like you mentioned, Christian, in previous additions to this team, you had an extra fight to them. They said, okay, you're going to put that kind of, disability on us, then we're going to go out there and we're going to fight just twice as hard. But the switch didn't really come on until the second half. And even then, at that point, you thought, okay, you get the goal, but then right away you give up another one. So it seemed that you just were not in any way prepared for this game at all. Like you mentioned, the players looked like they were ready to go back home as soon as they got on the pitch. Like they were ready to just leave. They were like, okay, let's get this game over with and let's go home because I'm tired, or whatever the situation may be. But you can't go into this game like this,
Definitely not. No, and actually, I want to bring up a really interesting point. We talked about fatigue, and the same performance was kind of similar when we played Necaxa, and someone mentioned on Twitter, I forgot who it was, but they mentioned that in both times when we traveled to Necaxa and to Querétaro, we traveled on the same day. Now, I don't know how much that really affects, a player's mental state when you have to travel and then, 12 hours later you have to go play a match. It's definitely curious to kind of know how many teams actually do this and what the results are at the end of the game. But if fatigue really does play a factor in this match, or in both matches, I should say, I think that's something the team should address. But I'm not here to make excuses like that, though. This team shouldn't perform like that, and especially not get drained down the first 30 minutes. That's just unacceptable for a team like America. So definitely a lot to work on in our next match against Monterrey, but definitely doesn't leave me with a good taste in my mouth.
No, yeah, definitely. It doesn't. And now let's shift the focus on a man that's definitely been on everyone's discussion board, and that is Miguel Piojo Herrera. Let's talk about the substitutions that he made or he didn't make, and let's talk about the way that he structured this team after the red card, and then into the second half, because I don't think we see enough of Piojo. And then we'll talk a little bit more about this whole hashtag Fuera Piojo and whether or not this is actually, I will ask Dylan because I asked him just against Necaxa because it was trending. Is it time to press that panic button? But we'll get to that in a little bit later. But Christian, I want to get your opinion first on how did you think Piojo managed this game? Because obviously you got scored on 4 times. I don't think that Piojo can say that he did the best that he could.
No, definitely not. And I think we start off with I guess the halftime substitution. There was a sub. A sub had to be made at halftime. I think that was clear. We were already down 1-0. The team wasn't generating anything. But you take out Luis Reyes to put on Henry Martin. Now, the only problem I see with that is you're taking out your left back to put in a striker. Now, if you want to take out a defensive, that's fine. But I think you should have taken out I think Sebastian Cáceres was the perfect candidate to come out. You could have shifted Santiago Cáceres to kind of play as center back whenever we had to go on the defense, and then when we go on the offense, we play with the 3-man in the back. But taking out Luis Reyes made us so vulnerable on that left side that it was so hard to kind of adjust whenever Querétaro was on the attack. That's where you saw Cáceres and Córdoba get so drained out because they had to consistently cover that side of the pitch. Definitely should have never done that. And then you take out Santiago Cáceres and put on Ramon Juarez. So you take out your center defensive mid to put on a center back. That also doesn't kind of really make sense to me. So like I said in the previous review, Piojo just doesn't get his subs right from time to time, and it's pretty detrimental for the team when your coach doesn't get the sub rights for 2 games straight and almost cost you both games.
No, yeah, completely. I mean, we could sit here and argue and discuss this whole, whether things did things right or wrong, but we don't have that kind of time. All we're gonna say is that we do know for a fact that Piojo definitely had a hand in this, and there's no doubt about it, Dylan. So at this point, I asked you again in Necaxa, and I'm asking you again now against Querétaro. Are people right to press that panic button and start to ask for Piojo's head? Mind you, we're still top of the league. We're still top of the table. We still have 11 goals scored. We still have a long season to go. How do you think? Are people overreacting, or are they right to be in this mindset? How you taking this?
I just don't know who you get if you do fire Piojo at this point. I mean,
we both know our answer is Ruben Romano.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But you want to go through those dark times again, but I just don't know. I don't necessarily see it, especially I think, like I've said, whenever we're previewing the season, I think the club made a statement whenever they gave him a contract extension. So I still don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it either, and I'll say this much. And someone even mentioned it in the comments. I don't know who There you go. Ramon Acosta, Piojo, overacted and too aggressive. No, sorry, it wasn't that comment. Someone earlier said that people are getting a little bit too out of hand with this whole fuera Piojo thing. Um, I will say this much. Yes, I do think that people are quick to jump ship when the results aren't going their way. Right when America won against Santos, everyone was quiet. Right, rightly so. America won, got the result, and then of course now with such a terrible loss, of course, people are going to be starting asking for heads. I will say this much though, kind of just to wrap it up and kind of not keep us in this state of mind much longer. But Piojo is the right man going forward. Yes, these are kind of games in which you would hope that you want better from him, but you want better from the players as well, right? I mean, you can only chuck so much up to him. You have responsibility out there on the pitch as a starting 11, and at that point you were 10 men on the pitch. You have to get together. You have to unite. You have to find a fighting spirit to go out there and get the game back, because you know what you represent, what institution you're working for, what jersey you have on. So I think a lot of it falls not under Piojo, but as well as the players. And we'll kind of just leave it at that, because we could sit here all day and we can argue, go back and forth whether Piojo's the right man or not, fuera Piojo, all this stuff going on. But I think at the end of the day, you chuck it up to a terrible, terrible loss, and you want to see a comeback. You want to see a bounce back, and we'll talk about whether or not America is going to be able to do so. But Christian, anything else to add?
I think that's pretty much it.
That is pretty much it. Let us know in the comment section down below. What do you guys feel about this America Querétaro game? And I know that there's so much more we can go more into, but like I mentioned, we don't want to keep you guys here all day just talking about a loss. It's kind of shift perspective. And let's move on into our next segment. But before we do, let me introduce today our two very, very special guests. It is the men from the Rayados 90 podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Gentlemen, how are you guys?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, good.
as
Happy
well.
that you guys are able to come on. Nice. Good to
Thanks
hear
for
that.
having us.
I know one of you guys is from LA and the other one's from Miami, correct?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Alrighty then. Okay, so we got two different time zones on here. This is gonna be fun. Definitely excited, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on to the podcast. We're gonna be previewing that game against America and Monterrey coming up this Saturday. But beforehand, I do want to give you guys the opportunity to talk to us a little bit more about Monterrey's last game. I know you guys went up against Necaxa. How are you guys feeling about walking away with the draw against them?
Go first, Eddie.
Um, it's disappointing. Just because they started off so well. I mean, me and Patrick, we always look at the advanced stats and look at the amount of chances they're creating. And I never thought I'd say this, 3 years ago, considering the missed penalty. But I mean, that's just become like an integral part of just creating opportunities. And we went with the two striker system last match against Necaxa, and like for the first 30. Yeah, well, for that entire first half, they were just creating chances. But as Pat can also say that this team just creates so many chances, but the ball just doesn't find the back of the net at a consistent rate. And so to just only walk away with a draw, considering the offensive potential of the squad, it's starting to become okay. I mean, there's matches where you can walk away with a draw and still feel good about yourselves, but against Necaxa, granted it's at home with no fans, but still, it was just one of those it's one of those draws that still feels like a loss.
Yeah, to kind of jump in with Eddie, it's kind of a repeated game now. It seems like every single game is the same. You get the same results in the pitch. You get the same answers from the coach post game. The only difference is from this one, from the Necaxa game, is that there actually was a change. Funes Mori and Johnson together, Aviles central attack in mid. So he did try something else. But the same thing happened. A lot of chances, but just nothing in the back of the net, or just one goal. And that one goal from Dolapaon had to be a wonderful goal. And that's crazy to me that we have to wait on something magical from a player to score once. So we're frustrated. We're frustrated as Rayados fans. You can hear it in the last podcast. We end up rambling about this whole about the directors, executive board, and it's just a little bit of a tiring team right now. Everything is just repeating, and a little frustrating for the fans.
Okay, so from what you guys are telling me and from the sound of it, it seems like both fan bases are coming into this game very much frustrated, right? Both teams are going to be looking for a result because I think both teams are trying to bounce back from getting two unexpected results, right? One being you guys' draw against Necaxa, us being that terrible loss against Querétaro. How are you guys feeling walking into this game after watching that America Querétaro game? Do you guys feel more confident, or do you guys feel like this America side is gonna have to answer some questions against Monterrey? How's the Monterrey people feeling about this upcoming match?
You want to go, Pat?
Yeah, I think it's not confident. That's not the word when we're coming into this match. I said it in the podcast. I think we're losing it. I mean, what Turco has shown us doesn't really give us that hope, especially for a big game. I know America just comes from a big loss, but it's America, and they're still very strong. And Rayados really hasn't shown anything to prove that they can beat America, at least for this game on Saturday. So I think there's a big side of the fans that are coming in the same way that I described it, just not confident. Probably another draw, probably a defeat.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. All right, gentlemen. Well, let's jump into this game, right? America's going to be facing off against, no, excuse me, not Santos, against Monterrey this Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. You guys can catch that game over on 2DN. And of course, gentlemen, this is the return of America in the Estadio Azteca. So, I mean, a lot of kind of, riding on this game. You're going back to your home. You have a lot of questions to answer, and you have a very tough opponent ahead of you. Christian, how do you think America is walking into this? I know that maybe Monterrey fans are a little bit skeptical and on the fence, rightfully so because of their recent results. But how do you think Americanistas are walking into this game? Are we hesitant as well? Because we know Monterrey, regardless of the results that they've been having, they do have a vast squad and they still have a lot of talent at their disposal. How are we coming into this?
I guess probably the same way. We're just don't know what the hell Piojo's gonna throw at us this time. I think Dylan always says it on every single podcast. It's always a curveball with Piojo, and especially after a loss like that, Piojo's gonna try to move around some pieces, and those pieces, well, we just can't really kind of guess or even predict because some of them are just so out of this world that we just don't know. But what America I think has to do is kind of just focus on themselves, focus what went well for them during the Santos game. Definitely look over the Querétaro game, kind of fix their mistakes because I think they were mistakes that I guess could have been prevented and can be improved upon. But definitely don't underestimate your opponent, even though they haven't been the same for a while now. But like you just said, they have a vast squad with depth in almost every single position. So they definitely have a lot of moving pieces that can kind of cause us torture in that match.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how America plants themselves, but it's also going to be interesting to see how Monterrey plants themselves. So, gentlemen, let me ask you this: because we typically like to start off our previews with a predicted lineup, so kind of we get a basis of what you guys think your team is going to go for, and then we kind of just build on from there. But tell me, how do you guys see this Monterrey side planting themselves on Saturday? Who do you guys see jumping on the pitch against America?
It's a little confusing just because I don't know if they're gonna go with the two striker formation, and then there's I don't know if Aviles is injured or not, so it's still kind of up in the air right now. And then you also have Stefan Medina who had to pull out just because he was showing COVID symptoms, so he's gonna have to get retested again. I don't think until Thursday we'll get like a clear lineup or clear players that are available. But me personally, I would still like them to go with that. What is it? That 4-3-1-2 formation that they had against Necaxa. But again, it's still with it all depends on what happens with Aviles. If there's no Aviles, then they have no one, in my opinion, that has that creative touch that's gonna generate chances from that final third of the pitch to get the ball from the midfield to the two strikers. So if that's not the case, then it'll probably have to go to like a standard 4-3-3. But again, Turco's been he'll mess around. He doesn't stick to one thing. But it all depends on the players that are available. If all the players are available and there's no injury, I would definitely see them going with the 4-3-2 or a 4-3-1-2, and try to see if they can continue with this momentum with the two strikers and see if the ball starts finding the back of the net.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
we're just waiting on results, I guess, from Stefan Medina and clearance from Aviles Hurtado because nobody knows what happens. They pulled him out after 45 minutes, and Rayados didn't say anything anywhere. So we don't know if he's still recovering from that injury he had, or if it was just a substitution just because Turco wanted it. So when we know that, then we'll know kind of what the lineup is. But I agree with Eddie. If Aviles is available, they're probably going to go with two strikers once again.
Very interesting. Very interesting to see if America is able to cope with that. Christian, you're our lineup guru. What do you think Piojo's going to be putting out on Saturday?
All right, so we're kind of still up in the air as well because we also have a player with COVID, Jorge Sanchez. So I don't think he'll be available for this match, but so I'm just gonna assume that he's not gonna be available. I think Piojo goes out with Ochoa in net, Paul Aguilar, Aguilera, Valdez, Luis Reyes, Santi Cáceres, Oso Gonzalez, and Cordova in the midfield. On one wing, Roger Martinez. On the other wing, Sergio Diaz, and up top, Federico Viñas.
Okay, whoa, you hit me with a lot of stuff right now, man. Okay, first of all, you're
Curveballs.
telling me that Aguilera starts.
Yes, sir.
That's the first thing that I picked up. That doesn't seem too out of this realm because, of course, the game that Cáceres just had. Of course, I can see that kind of partnership between Bruno and Aguilera coming back, especially in a very tough matchup like Monterrey. You need two people that understand each other very well. And it would be unfortunate if Cáceres does lose his starting position because of that game against Querétaro. Now, second of all, you're telling me that we're going to have Sergio Diaz start just
Correct.
2 weeks coming into Mexico?
Correct.
Okay, now that is very adventurous of you. I will say that much. I don't think Piojo is going to do that. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, you are our lineup guru, so you might know something I don't. You might know something I don't. But Eddie, tell me from the lineup that Christian just gave, what players stand out to you that could cause you guys problems from the America side of things?
It all depends. If there's no Stefan Medina, then that right side becomes a bit of a weakness just because they'll have Miguel Layun more than likely having to step in for Stefan Medina. And then at that right center back area is Nico Sanchez, who, although we love, he's getting up there in age and sometimes he can show his deficiencies on defense. So whoever is on that right side with no Stefan Medina can really take advantage of Miguel Layun's not the best defensively, and so is Nico Sanchez. So you have two guys who are a little bit of a liability defensively. So that can be an area where they could try to exploit.
Interesting, very very interesting. Now, Dylan, these gentlemen told us that Monterrey most likely is going to be coming at us with two very good strikers at that end. How do you feel like knowing that possibly Aguilera is going to be coming back into this defense? We know that, he tends to be a little bit shaky as well. But how do you feel knowing that, Monterrey is going to come at us with two very good attackers? Is our defense ready for this?
I don't really think so. I mean, Aguilera, like, everybody's complained about him. He kind of has his flashy moments, but not as much as he does his mistake moments too. I just don't think Bruno Valdez can get it done by himself. And then you go back and look at the Querétaro game. I think Bruno Valdez had a few mistakes too that you don't often see him make and that you don't want him to make. So I just think it's going to be a long night if Monterrey line up like that.
Yeah, it does paint to be a long night for, I think, both teams, like we just mentioned. Monterrey, of course, still needing to kind of figure out who their starting 11 is going to be regarding on, what players are going to be available to them. Of course, America having a lot of questions being pointed towards the back line. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the attacking side of things. How do you guys feel that Monterrey is going to come out, tactically speaking, if the formation that you guys expect to come to fruition on Saturday? How do you think Turco comes and approaches this game, tactically speaking?
I mean,
you want to go back?
Yeah, I think he's a guy that experiments on lineups, experiments on players, but he has a clear-cut idea. Let's create chances, and we got players to finish them. I mean, especially with Jansen and Funes Mori, there's guys to finish them. They're just not doing it nowadays. But I think if he repeats what he did with Necaxa, it's going to be either whoever's with Aviles, whoever's in the midfield behind Aviles Hurtado, just one goes with him forward, either if he's on the left side or if he's on the right side. Our left backs and right backs are always up. They always go up and attack. And Aviles did really well connecting with them. So I think what Turco does is he just tries to get everybody involved in the offense. Even though we have two number 9s, two strikers, he still gets the left back up, still gets the right back up, and everybody in the midfield. So we'll have numbers up there. But obviously the problem is with a team like America, who's a little bit more stacked than Necaxa and Pumas and the other teams that we've faced recently, where we can suffer transitioning back to defense.
Okay, interesting. Eddie, anything more to add?
No, I think Pat covered it pretty well. I think it'll all depend just on our midfield too, just because it's been not up to par. So it will be interesting. Again, we're just speaking if he does go with two strikers. If not, then it'll be something else different. I think it all depends. But if he's going with that formation, yeah, Pat summed it up well.
Okay, and very interesting. Christian, these gentlemen alluded to a midfield battle, and I think that's going to be kind of crucial and detrimental. If America can try to win that midfield, I think a lot can go right for America, right? We know that their fullbacks like to push up, like they just mentioned. So it does mean potentially a lot of space down the wings, which we know Piojo likes to use a lot. How do you think Piojo plants himself in this game, especially after such a terrible game against Querétaro? How do you bounce back, tactically speaking, against a team like Monterrey?
It's difficult, definitely difficult, only because you can sit in here and argue how Monterrey haven't really been playing to their standards, but you just look at some of the players on their roster, and there are players that have always been scary, whether it be America or just in general. There are players that can just flip on a switch and then become instantly a threat at any given moment. Now, I really do think if Piojo wants to win this game, I think Santi Cáceres and also Gonzalez need to play this match. I think it just gives a little bit more of a solid midfield and kind of a more defensive minded. I think that's how Piojo is going to approach this game, a little bit more defensive minded in previous games. You're going to have to try to contain the two striker formation that Monterrey will put out if that's what they go with. And definitely a lot of pressure will be coming from the wing, so you're going to need that extra support in the back. It's definitely going to be hard, but I think that's how Piojo will do it.
So it sounds like it's a game where a lot of the creativity and a lot of the responsibility of America going forward is going to fall at the feet of Sebastián Córdoba.
Correct.
Because it sounds like you're going to have also Insanti kind of play a very kind of crucial role in the midfield in trying to contain most of the attack Monterrey throws at us. And then you're going to have, your wingers trying to, do kind of pull a double shift, having to run back and forth. So the main man to kind of focus on, and the main man that has to be kind of the orchestrator for this side, is going to have to be Sebastián Córdoba. Dylan, this is a player that obviously a lot of people know I heavily criticize, but rightfully so, because I think I see the potential. I just need to see more consistency from him. And this is a game in which, like we mentioned, I need to see him kind of be the star for the team. Do you think Cordoba's up to the challenge? Because I have mentioned before, he does seem to be kind of a player that goes off of, confidence. He's very confident driven. He just scored a goal against Querétaro and could arguably be one of the better players from that game. Do you think he has what it takes to be the man for America this Saturday?
Well, for starters, Ivan, I just think your propaganda against Cordova is just uncalled for and unnecessary. So I think you just need to calm down a little bit with that. But, at the beginning of our preview for the season, I did say Cordova was going to have a good season. I think he's going to be pivotal for us. And so I really do think so. He's going to be great in this game. But at the same time, like you said, he thrives off confidence. He gets that goal. His confidence is up. But then, like you said, whenever we were talking about the Querétaro game, America concedes a goal right away, and then all of a sudden the substitution was made and Cordova was put on the wing. And so I feel like maybe he lost some confidence too, just going from that game, especially conceding right after he scored, and then getting moved out to the wing, which we know he's not very good at in that area, in that position. So I think it's just kind of unnecessary, kind of up in the air a little bit right now, depending on how things go tactically for this. But I feel like in the end, he can step up and do the job we need him to do.
Gonna be very interesting to see whether or not Cordova is able to kind of, put the team on his shoulder and carry kind of a lot of burden, a lot of responsibility. But, this is what great players are made out of, and whether or not he can thrive and showcase it, well, we're gonna have to keep an eye on him on Saturday. Gentlemen, any player in this Monterrey side that we should definitely be kind of worried? I know we've mentioned Aviles Hurtado, but Christian, is there one player besides him that you kind of just look at and you're like, okay, we definitely need to keep an eye on this guy?
Funes Mori.
He seems to be like the Boselli of Monterrey for us, right?
Of course, every single time we seem to match up against Monterrey, his name's always appears on the score sheet.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that we need to work on. Right now he really hasn't been the same from this Modi as previous seasons. But like I said, though, at any moment that can change, and why not this game? I guess he just thrives off playing against America. He lives for the big games, and this is definitely indeed one of those games. So definitely got to keep our eyes up for Funes Mori.
Definitely, Peter, Eddie, how are you guys feeling about your forwards? Are you guys confident that they can put on a good shift against America this Saturday?
Right now, Funes Mori, after scoring 2 goals, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 goals. I got to double check, but it's 2 or 3 goals in the first 2 games of the season. He's kind of hit a cold streak, like all strikers do, and so he hasn't. He's been in the goal scoring department. He hasn't been effective. But there's one forward that I'm really kind of interested to see if he starts or not. If he comes off the bench again, then he'll have like another chip on his shoulder, like he scored against Necaxa, and that's Dorlan Pavon. Because Pat said it on our podcast. I think it was Pat. That when Pavon, I don't know, when they sit him down and he plays angry, he plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he has something to prove. That's when he's like really dangerous, and that's when you saw the goal against Necaxa. He'll fire it from outside the penalty box, and it just goes in. So I'm just interested to see if they sit him down again, if he has again that chip on his shoulder with something to prove, and that's when he can be really, really dangerous.
Yeah. To add another player, I think our midfield has been suffering. I know, Eddie, we've talked about Charlie and Maxi Message just being non-existent pretty much this season. We don't know if Charlie will start. We're kind of pushing for him to be benched at least for 1 game, just to get his rhythm back and get him to know that, hey, you're not performing. So I think Charlie, this is probably his last game. That if his last chance, because if he doesn't perform once again, I think he'll be benched for the next one. So I think this game, I'm hoping if Charlie can put it together and put up a good game, because he's very important, getting the ball back for us and also creating chances. So we're missing him a lot, and I think if he plays normally, then he can be a dangerous man for Monterrey as well.
It's very interesting. Very interesting, because I think I'm looking at both squads, and I see a lot of similarities, like you guys mentioned. A player that at least I think has a chip on his shoulder from America's perspective is Roger Martinez. And Christian, we just mentioned the wingers are going to have to do a lot of work, a lot of running back and forth. Roger is not known for that. So are we playing kind of a little handicap here with Roger Martinez out on the wing?
I don't think so. Well, only if also in Casa de start, because I think that they'll kind of do a lot of the filling in of the spaces whenever Roger Martinez doesn't track back. The problem does arise though if both don't start. Now if we start maybe someone like Emilio Sanchez or someone from the cantera, then that's where I think the problems will start. I think this is kind of essential for the wingers to kind of drop back in this match, only because of the immense pressure that Monterrey will enforce in this game. So that's definitely something to keep your eye out.
Definitely, it's gonna be interesting. Now, Dylan, Christian, any player that you guys, I know I mentioned Cordova, but any player that you guys are gonna keep an eye on that needs to have a game, like a really good game against this Monterrey side, that you just need them to pick it up?
Pablo Aguilar.
Interesting. Dylan?
At this rate, whenever we're talking about this game in particular, I think Luis Reyes.
So both fullbacks is
Yeah.
basically what I'm hearing. So both fullbacks, of course, they're gonna have a long night. Let's just put it that way. They're gonna have a long night. Like the gentleman said, Monterrey liking to push up those lines, those fullbacks, those wings. It's gonna become quite the hectic mess, like you mentioned, Christian. We're gonna need a lot of support, not just from the center backs, but also the center defensive mids, kind of filling in those spaces. I am a little bit worried, especially in Paulo Aguilar's side. His age is definitely showing more now than ever. He doesn't have that same rhythm. He doesn't have that same step. And, one thing that does worry me and I do question a lot is this kind of thing that we were just talking about in the Querétaro game was the fatigue factor and all of this. I know we're going to have quite a little bit longer of a time, between matches. And I know that America is playing at home, but, I do have to ask the question, do you think fatigue will play a part in this, or will America finally be able to go the full 90 without showcasing that they have some sort of fatigue?
For me, I think they'll be fine in this match. It's just weird how however we kind of just look tired in some games, and in other games we kind of can go the full 90. I think for this game, I think they kind of understand the importance of the opponent and the importance of the game, and kind of just bounce back from a defeat like that. So I think they'll be good for 90 minutes.
Alrighty. Patrick, Eddie, do you guys have any similar worries in regards to the Monterrey side? I know you guys are going to be doing the traveling side of things. You guys are the away side. Do you think fatigue might play a part in this?
I'm only worried to see if Aviles can play more than 45 minutes, just because he in the two games that he's played, he's been subbed off in the second half. One for injury, and I'm not sure if the other one was for injury or precaution or whatever. But yeah, that's the only one. For him, he's become an integral part of the offense now, and like I said, nobody thought about that a year or two or 3 years ago, but he is now, and if he can't get it going, play more than a half, then they're gonna have to take advantage of him while he's in there. So it's just gonna be interesting to see if he can go more than 45.
Yeah, I'm not as worried on fatigue per se. I mean, we've got a lot of players. I'm a little bit more worried on what Turco actually does, because he can be winning 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 at the 60-something mark, or even before that, he'll start going back. And that's when we obviously get a lot of shots on target. And Turco hasn't really been our favorite, at least for Eddie and me. He hasn't been our favorite this year. And we just hope that he learns his lesson. It's one win in 15, 16 games. You got to learn your lesson now. But I'm a little bit more worried on Turco than fatigue.
Okay. Interesting. All right, gentlemen. Well, let's wrap this all up with our predictions. We'll let Eddie and Patrick take the floor first. What do you guys think your prediction is for this Saturday?
I'm going 1-1 draw.
Okay.
You stole my prediction. I'll go 2-1 America. I'll go 2-1 America.
Okay. I've never in my time hosting this podcast has a guest come and said that their team will lose.
We support Rayados. We do a podcast about them, but we talk about them in a biased way or unbiased. I don't know what it is. And Rayados is not doing great. That's the truth.
Oh, well, I respect that 100% very much. All right, Christian, give me your prediction.
Same 2-1 for America.
2-1 for America. Dylan.
Well, with the way things are trending with America so far this season, we're supposed to have a good game and, hopefully a win. So I think I'm going to go with a hard-fought 1-0 win for America. I feel like both teams might just come out because obviously Monterrey is playing America, and they're going to want to come out and obviously get a win too. But I feel like they hold on for a clean sheet, and America gets the lone goal.
Definitely. Well, you stole my prediction. I was going to say a 1-0, hard fought win for America, but I'll follow in Patrick's footsteps, and I'll say a 2-2 draw. I can also see that happening. A 2-2 draw in the Estadio Azteca. I think there might be some goals here if both of the floodgates open for both sides. But should be an interesting match. Make sure you guys do not miss a beat of it. It's going to be, again, live Saturday, 7 p.m. Pacific time, 9 Central, 10 Eastern, over on TuneIn. If you guys, for whatever reason, cannot watch the game, make sure you guys head over on Twitter. We'll keep you guys updated with everything going on. Gentlemen, thank you so much for hopping onto the podcast and talking all things Rayados Monterrey with us. This is very good, very insightful for a lot of us. I know that, we kind of are looking at this Monterrey side a little different now after everything you guys have told us. But thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
All righty. Well, Christian, Dylan, anything else to add on to our guests before we kind of wrap this all up?
No, just thank you guys for taking the time to come talk to us. We follow your guys' content. Definitely one of the better ones in Liga MX. So keep up the good work, and we'll definitely keep following you guys.
Thanks for coming on, guys. Yeah, really do appreciate y'all taking the time and joining us here today.
Definitely. So, best of luck to both teams. May the better team win, and let's hope that they do not cause us to rip too many hairs out of our head on Saturday. All righty then. Well, thank you so much to everyone that's been watching. Thank you so much to everyone that's been listening. Like we mentioned, please stay safe out there. Head over to our Twitter account. Make sure you guys follow us. If you guys are interested in following the Rayados content, gentlemen, where can they find you on Twitter?
Just follow our Monterrey account, Rayados90, the 90 spelled out. Other than that, that's pretty much it. That's where we put all the contents at.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Awesome. Well, then, like we mentioned, we hope you guys have a wonderful night. Stay safe out there. And, keep it 100, and we'll keep you guys in the loop. All right. Until next time, see you guys. And as always, Arriba America.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another production of the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 source for all things Club America in English. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast and get all the latest news and coverage. And subscribe to our podcast wherever it is you may listen.